Stardust Crusaders is one of the few parts that gets a big amount of flack from the minor villains that you see, which I can agree with in some cases. While I'm not as interested with those villains, I like what they were used for and what energy they gave for the fights that they were in. That goes with fights like Wheel of Fortune and The Sun. While Part 3 had its fair share of serious moments, it also had a lot of comical moments with them, which was fine, but this was before Dio's Elite. While we had a moment or two where it seemed like we lost a member, we got that member back. Once the 9 glory gods of Egypt were introduced, it was a game changer. Or well, in my opinion, you only have about 5 of them posing a ridiculous threat. You can figure out who I'm not taking seriously, but I think that having Indul as the first glory god was probably Araki's best foot forward. With how much power and effect he's had, he's one of the best glory gods. The portrayal of the 9 glory gods is shown off as if every stand user they will encounter in the volumes or episodes after are going to be the same caliber of Indul. Some of them are made for impactful mental fights, and some of them are there to define specific characters. Indul has all of the important aspects that we get from the other gods, and he does this as natural as possible. He's not only the one god to have all of these notable traits, but he's also the one god to fight the whole Stardust Crusaders. Jotaro, Kakyoin, Polnareff, Joseph, Abdul, and Iggy were all present, and he could have taken 4 of the 6 mentioned. The 2 that he couldn't take were the 2 that defeated him. Indul and Geb are shown to be this powerful force during the fight, but we were able to get that even before the Crusaders knew exactly what was going on. This one small scene where you see Indul against the Fly, he almost catches it on his own, which by itself seems crazy since he's blind. The Fly gets away and he talks about how he needs more practice maybe, but instead of trying to catch it again, he bounces a rock off of the ground to exactly strike where the Fly would be. How he's able to be so vigilant and precise without requiring vision foreshadows that he's not like any of the stand users that they have encountered. He's also one of the very few villains to have damaged and have impact on the Stardust Crusaders, along the lines of stand users like Vanilla Ice, Midler, the Darbys, and a few others. Now, getting down into the fight itself. This battle, while being an engaged physical fight, is an intense, taxing mind battle. Even before seeing Geb attack anyone, you can see Jotaro and Joseph being overwhelmingly confused on how a member of the Speedwagon Foundation could drown in the desert. I still don't understand how the fish got involved, but I think that it was probably done to make the scene even more bizarre. With what happens once Geb attacks, it immediately puts everyone else into defense mode where they're all trying to figure out what should they do. It's a fast stand that's strong enough to rip someone's head off and put it into a canteen, so you know why they'd be on such high alert. There's not much they can do while being cautious because they don't know if that stand would be able to combat their stand. They're also extremely wary since they know that this stand user does not care who they're going for, and confused by the process of elimination that there should only be one enemy left. There wasn't a single clue about the 9 gods since they had no reason to think that there would be more than the tarot card stand users. So while staying on high alert, they try to think of ways to approach or find the user, and that was probably one of the most logical things that they could do with all of the information they've compiled over the time of the journey. Yet, this is something that went completely past what they know. In the midst of talking about Kakyoin being hypocritical, Geb was forming right under their noses. Taking Kakyoin out of the picture was a huge power move for the plot, but also a huge move from Indul to show what they're against. Polnareff running instead of trying to defend Kakyoin had shown a feeling that we've seen from Polnareff a couple of times, and that's him being afraid of the unknown. Since he doesn't understand how the stand works or where it's coming from, the only thing he can do is run. He almost loses his foot, but everyone gets to the buggy. For what happens after, it's Indul showing the gap of intelligence and power between him and the Crusaders. But it also shows how Indul can lose focus at times, if he's making light of a situation, or he's too focused on one thing. Once everyone else is incapacitated and Joseph is being as useful as he can, it's a fight between Jotaro and Indul. Iggy is also there, but not willingly. One thing that I will continuously think of in this fight is the range. Indul was 4 kilometers away from the Crusaders. Rounding it down, that's around 13,000 feet. He was destroying the Crusaders and was nowhere near them, and if Indul was on kill mode the whole time, it would have been game over for everyone. Now, onto Jotaro and Indul. There were 3 things that majorly defined the fight, and 2 of those were out-of-the-box tactics. Indul had made Geb kick up sand high enough so it would fall on Iggy and Jotaro, By doing that, he was able to hear the sand raining down on them and can sense them through the sound. That's one of the smartest tactics I've seen in part 3, and I'm happy that it happened. For a good amount of the fight, I was on Indul's side because of how intelligent he's presented to be. With being able to combat the entire team and taking out 3 of the members, you have to give him credit. Plus, his stand is water, he can sense you in the air, he's in the desert, that's all earth, it's like, what do you do? Now, what combats Indul is how unorthodox Jotaro can be. In the next fights against the other glory gods, Jotaro has shining moments. These shining moments happen because of Jotaro doing things that no other person would do. Most of these things that can either put himself in danger or others, but if there's a chance of Jotaro and others prospering for it, then he's down to take that chance. Since Jotaro was being given up by Iggy and Indul was coming after him, he solved 2 issues with 1 tactic. And that tactic he threw Iggy. With how hard he threw Iggy, he's forcing Indul to recall Geb to defend himself, and Iggy must get a grip and use his stand against Indul to stay alive. It's genius, and something that not everyone would think of to do because it's so unconventional. To be honest, I stopped everything once he threw Iggy and had to sit down a bit because it seemed comical, but it was a smart decision the whole time. Once Indul and Iggy defend themselves from each other, Indul notices that Jotaro is gone. He gets overwhelmed trying to search for him, but then we all see where Jotaro actually is. This is the third and final thing that defined the fight, the silent standoff between Jotaro and Indul. Looking at the manga, you can see the tension purely off of the sound symbols alone. Adding on to that, you have Iggy, who's on edge looking at the standoff about to happen. This is what we finally built up to, and we're ending it off with not only a signature standoff, but a battle of the mind too. Jotaro goes without saying anything for 13 pages, and Indul is the only one talking because he realized that Jotaro got the drop on him. But now, it's a western draw, and the walking stick is the counter. This is something that I credit the anime for, but still believe that the manga had done this better due to the tone that Araki set being formulated and executed better. When there's major moments in the manga, you know it's important due to how much space is taken up. The attack almost took up 2 whole pages, but the draw itself took up 4 pages. The ease in tone after the draw is an extremely calm tone. In a fight like this, you would think that the fighters would have some sort of Joseph and Wamu tone going with how good the fight was, but it completely shifted once Indul attacks himself. Once that happens, Indul sheds light on everything that's been going on and what led up to him coming for the Crusaders. Indul was a man who had never feared death. There was never anyone that wasn't a stand user that could combat him. He was even above the law since he could do everything under their nose. But the one time he had wished to not meet his fate was when he was under Dio. Dio was the first person to acknowledge the value of Indul, and he praises Dio for being the god of the Forsaken Ones. He says that evil needs a savior as well. Jotaro sees it as Dio making people into fanatics, but Indul isn't technically wrong. While Dio is using the stand users for his own personal gain, he's only using them because he sees potential in what they do. He comforts them for what they are, and he needs them because of who they are. He wants them to embrace their evil and build upon it. While he is manipulating them, it wouldn't be a surprise to them. They're evil and he's evil, so it would only make sense that it would happen. Though, that's something I never thought of really. You don't associate a term like God for someone like Dio. You think about the other guy, and the other guy is lower than God. But to think of an evil counterpart that's exactly the same in the eyes of his followers, it's new and interesting. The battle ends with Jotaro walking away, but you still feel a sense of respect. The arc is finished up with Iggy showing his companionship with Jotaro, and doing Iggy things with it. It's possible that he now respects Jotaro for defeating someone that made him cower in fear, but he's still Iggy, so he's going to do what he does. This arc was one of the most eventful ones you'll see in part 3, and what it did held weight. He set a tone that made the reader or watcher think that there was going to be enemies like in Duel that would possibly have the same amount of impact. While that isn't the case, it did a great job for what it was going for. I appreciate in Duel and everything he did. Well, except for what he did to Kakyoin, but at the same time he gave him some pretty cool scars, so I guess we're good. Thank you, Duel, and thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys like character or arc analysis, I have a playlist with a few of my others. Follow my media in the description to stay updated, and join my Discord to meet other people with the same interests. If you guys want a new character or a specific arc and topic, you guys can go ahead and comment that. Any more video ideas, comment section below, and you guys know exactly what to do. Hope I see you all in the next one. So until then, peace out, and Godspeed.